Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces continue to hold back enemy pressure in the Pokrovsk direction. Since the beginning of the day, the Russians have attacked the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine more than 100 times, trying to encircle Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad in a pincer movement. The Kremlin has already managed to spread lies about an encirclement. Heavy fighting is also ongoing in the Alexandrivka direction, near Sishneve, Stepover, Pavlivka and Uspenivka. The occupiers are shelling the border areas from the air. Volodymyr Zelenskyy spent today on the front line. In Donetsk and Dnipro regions, in the Dobropilya direction, he met with Azov fighters. He thanked them for their service and presented them with state awards. The military reported on the situation at the front line, the strengthening of the defensive flanks of Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, and the protection of logistical routes. The president ordered an increase in funding for the corps in key areas. Directions.
The Russian army has already been forced more than once to postpone the deadlines they had set for themselves regarding our Pokrovsk, regarding our Dobropilya, and every Russian loss specifically in these directions, in Donetsk region, on the border with our Dnipropetrovsk region, and also in Kupiansk, every Russian loss adds to our strength. To defend the state, to protect our people, our independence.
So there is no talk of Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad being blocked. A comprehensive operation to destroy and drive out the enemy is underway there, involving special operations forces of the Security Service of Ukraine and the main intelligence directorate, says Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi.
To disperse enemy forces, the armed forces of Ukraine are increasing pressure on the Dobropilya salient. All of this is to pull the Russians away from Pokrovsk. Putin ordered the city to be taken under control by mid-November to show the West, and personally Trump, that his army is worth something. But the Russian population also needs to believe in their leaders, so there is an internal motivation at play as well.
So what is happening in Pokrovsk right now? What is the strategic, military and geopolitical significance of this city for both us and the enemy? And
our military correspondent Tetiana Demok has gotten in touch with those who are currently in Pokrovsk.
All attention is now focused on this section of the front in the Pokrovsk direction. The information coming from there is conflicting, but one thing is clear: our forces are having a hard time right now. The Russians have thrown all their forces into capturing the city.
There is heavy fighting, meaning a massive concentration of forces.
Pokrovsk itself, urban combat is ongoing. Russians have been spotted both near the railway and in the central districts of the city. Since last week, the enemy has been infiltrating in small groups.
We also managed to have some units get into the city, bring in those same drones, and deliver supplies for the guys who are in this area.
To the north of Pokrovsk is Myrnohrad. These are two neighboring cities in Donetsk region that border each other. And Myrnohrad is another point through which the enemy is trying to carry out their plan to seize the entire agglomeration in what they call a pincer movement.
Yes, they are trying to come in from the flanks to cut off our logistics, our supply routes. Because of the sheer number of their personnel, no matter how many we strike or destroy, a small number still manage to get into the city. And by using camouflage, disguising themselves in civilian clothes and hiding in abandoned houses and basements.
The Pokrovsk direction is a strategic location, so all available forces have been deployed to defend it. The best assault brigades, special operations forces units and GUR fighters, special reconnaissance operatives, have just released footage of a successful airborne operation carried out right under the enemy's nose. But the battle for Pokrovsk did not begin a week or a month ago. It is one of the longest battles and is comparable in duration to the full cycle of the battle for Bakhmut. After capturing Avdiivka in February 2024, Russian forces gained the opportunity to advance further west. In the summer of 2024, the enemy concentrated large forces and began a massive assault on settlements east of Pokrovsk. There were
such flare-ups as in Kavdiivsky, Kokosivsky, in the wrong way, basically. That was the first such stage, a wave. The second was when there was fighting in Soledar. and now the second stage near Pokrovsk has begun.
The 68th Yeher Brigade is now directly fighting in the city. To support these soldiers, you can donate using the QR code you see on your screen. We have worked with this brigade more than once on the outskirts of Pokrovsk. We showed the work of the mortar crews and tank operators. We sent drones into the sky and played with the dogs at the position. Pokrovsk is a railway city, also known as the Western Gateway of the region, connecting eastern Ukraine with its center. The city was famous as an old center of the Donbass coal mines. Here is located the Pokrovsk Mine Administration, one of the largest enterprises in Ukraine, specializing in the extraction of coking coal. And this is also the city of Shchedryk. The world-famous composer Mykola Leontovich lived and worked here. It was here that he created Ukraine's first choir of railway workers and worked on the second edition of the legendary Shchedryk melody. Now the city is shattered and mutilated by Russian occupiers.
They don't understand what they're doing. They're just killing everyone. They managed to drag in a number of people. The personnel, I think soon there will be news that they'll just be wiped out, that's all. Because it's simply impossible to conduct any combat operations there.
Holding the flanks plays a critically important role in the defense of the entire Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad agglomeration. The 152nd Separate Jaeger Brigade has been holding positions near Kotlin and Udakhny for over 10 months now.
Despite heavy shelling and constant enemy assault attempts, the area of responsibility remains unchanged. In other words, we haven't lost a single meter of territory. As of today, the enemy continues to use the tactic of assaults by small groups. They advance under the cover of artillery and FPV drones. In some cases, they use quad bikes and motorcycles.
Pokrovsk is not just a city, it is an important agglomeration, and that is precisely where its key strategic significance lies. In war, if the defense collapses, it could open up operational space for Russian troops to advance further into Ukrainian territory. This will make it possible to threaten the large cities of Dobropilya, Kramatorsk, Sloviansk and Dnipropetrovsk regions.
What, scary one, how are you? Pokrovsk. This is my city. I feel at home here. This is my Pokrovsky. This is our Pokrovsky.
According to intelligence and analysts, Putin has ordered his army to capture Pokrovsk by November 15. Analysts link such haste to the need for a victory not only for the domestic audience, it's also a demonstration to the West that Russia is not a paper tiger. Tetiana Demok, We Are Ukraine United News Marathon.
A sudden and extremely difficult but ultimately successful operation. The Cobra unit played a decisive role in the liberation of Ukrainian Novomykhailivka in the Lyman direction of Donetsk region.
Fighters from the special unit Huratan crossed kilometers of the so-called kill zone and broke through the enemy's defenses. The offensive was planned under strict secrecy, but now we can talk about it. So watch as the participants of the breakthrough share their stories. Exclusive.
Our soldiers liberated Novomykhailivka in Donetsk region at the end of summer, and it was an extremely difficult operation. The defense forces were up against the enemy. Russians had been there long, mining everything and fortifying their positions. So our special forces decided to break through the Russian defensive line using an armored vehicle with an assault team to get behind enemy lines, secure a foothold there, and attack the enemy from within.
I'll say right away that this mission was going to be a tough one. We drove into the enemy's rear on an armored vehicle, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 kilometers, it was quite a considerable distance.
The enemy did not expect such decisive actions.
The enemy was really shocked, like how could this happen? Even the armored vehicle couldn't handle that much stress.
It was this soldier who led the breakthrough from inside the armored vehicle. He says the road felt like a path to hell.
I felt the explosions, real explosions, and saw the smoke. The driver immediately asked me what to do, should we turn back, and I said no. Straight ahead, keep moving forward, don't stop.
Mines were exploding under the wheels. Drones were attacking from above. The vehicle was hit by shrapnel. The brakes failed, but the crew kept moving forward.
I immediately knew that we wouldn't be coming back with this vehicle, that my only task was to save the personnel, to save lives.
The end point of such a hellish ride deep in enemy territory. That's exactly where the landing site was.
It's much more difficult in a vehicle because the enemy detects us and activates all their means. And of course, it's very hard to get there and even harder to come back. But the crew was briefed because our main goal was to preserve the lives of the personnel.
Later, the enemy hit the Ukrainian armored vehicle. But before that, the crew managed to leave the vehicle, and then the assault troops took over.
We stopped at this spot. A battle broke out, we engaged, heard the enemy's screams, and then we moved deeper into the city.
During the battle, one of the artillerymen was seriously wounded.
During our last rest, our comrade Dio was seriously wounded. We pulled Dio further into the wasteland, and I took up a defensive position with my rifle.
The guys dug a few trenches where they spent the night without water or food. Unfortunately, we were unable to save the wounded man.
We didn't have any water, but thank God it started to rain, and we managed to collect some water using a rain poncho. We administered the water with a syringe, 5 milliliters each time.
But staying in this forest for long was extremely dangerous. The cover was unreliable, and enemy drones were hunting in the sky. This temporary position of the artillerymen was located between two enemy defensive lines.
We made a dash about 400 meters along the edge of the forest. At that moment, another group engaged the enemy, distracting them and giving us the chance to run across.
The special forces of Vartan, who were fighting deep in enemy territory, were covered by FPV drone operators and artillerymen. We
tried to carry out certain blocking actions, meaning we didn't allow the enemy to approach our guys. When the enemy was detected, a powerful and sustained artillery barrage from mortars was carried out, effectively preventing the enemy from approaching our assault companies. We also provided support to the assault companies during our offensive operations.
The Ukrainian special forces held their position in the enemy's rear for a day, and after receiving the order to return, they spent another 4 days and nights breaking out of encirclement. Anyone can support the Arten fighters. By scanning the QR code, you'll find a link to their fundraising account. The guys are raising money for ground robotic systems.
Our unit has always been known for its character and directness. The success of this operation, it was a complex operation, was thanks to our unit, the 3rd Corps and the 3rd Assault Brigade were all involved. Everything was very clearly planned and everyone carefully carried out their own part.
This operation was informally called Cobra in honor of the vehicle that, together with the fighters, broke through enemy defensive lines. Such success made it possible to strike effectively from other directions, which ultimately helped liberate Novomykhailivka. This is one of the significant successes of the defense forces in the Lyman direction. Rostislav Sisoyev, We Are Ukraine, Marathon, United News.